The snow began to fall just as Daniel whispered the words he no longer believed anyone was listening to. "If you're still there, I need a sign." Christmas Eve had arrived quietly, wrapped not in joy, but in a profound silence. The world outside glowed with warm lights and cheerful laughter, yet inside Daniel's heart, winter had settled in long ago, cold and unyielding. He stood by the frosted window, watching snowflakes drift down like forgotten prayers, wondering how his faith, once so strong, so unshakable, could just disappear without a sound. This was not the Christmas he remembered from years past. This was the Christmas that would change everything. The small town of Everwood lay tucked between pine-covered hills, a place where Christmas traditions ran deeper than the roots of the old church standing tall in the town square. Wooden houses glowed with soft lantern light, festive wreaths hung proudly on every door, and the gentle ringing of bells could be heard softly in the distance. It was the perfect picture of Christmas, but Daniel's home felt hollow, empty. The fire crackled in the fireplace, but it offered no real warmth. A half-decorated Christmas tree stood neglected in a corner, its ornaments dusty, its lights unplugged. Snow pressed gently against the window panes, piling up on the empty street outside. Everwood looked just like a postcard Christmas town, but for Daniel, it was just a painful reminder of everything he had lost. Just 1 year ago, Daniel's life had been full. He had a family that laughed loudly and filled every room with joy. He had dreams that stretched far beyond the borders of Everwood, and a faith that anchored him through every storm life threw his way. Then the storm came anyway. A sudden, tragic accident took his wife, Clara, and their young daughter, Lily, on a rainy winter night. The world didn't just break for Daniel, it completely collapsed. Days bled into months, and months turned into a numb, hollow survival. He stopped going to church. He stopped praying. He stopped believing that promises, especially divine ones, meant anything at all. How could faith possibly exist? He often asked himself, late at night, when God allows this much pain. Christmas, once his favorite season of the year, now felt like salt being poured into an open, gaping wound. That evening, unable to bear the silence any longer, Daniel bundled himself in a heavy coat and stepped outside into the cold night air. He didn't know where he was going, he only knew that staying inside that house felt unbearable. The fresh snow crunched softly beneath his boots as he wandered aimlessly through the town square. Families passed him, arms linked, their laughter echoing in the crisp air. Children dragged sleds behind them, their pure joy feeling sharp and piercing to his grieving heart. Daniel lowered his head, pulling his scarf tighter around his face. Before he realized it, his feet had carried him somewhere familiar, the old church at the center of town. Its large wooden doors were open, and a warm golden light spilled out onto the snow, looking like an invitation he had avoided for so many months. Against his better judgment, he found himself stepping inside. The church was nearly empty. Candles flickered along the walls, casting dancing shadows, and the air smelled of pine from the Christmas decorations and melting wax. At the very front, an elderly man knelt alone in prayer. It was the town's former caretaker, Mr. Elias. As Daniel entered, Mr. Elias looked up and offered a gentle, knowing smile. "Hard nights bring honest visitors," he said softly, his voice kind. Daniel felt an immediate urge to turn and leave. But instead, he found himself sitting down in a nearby pew. "I don't belong here," Daniel admitted, his voice barely a whisper. "I lost my faith." Mr. Elias simply nodded, as if he had heard those very words many times before. "Faith isn't lost," he replied calmly. "It just gets buried. Like seeds buried beneath the snow." Daniel let out a small, bitter scoff. "Snow kills things." The old man smiled again, a soft and patient smile. "No," he said. "Snow protects them. Until the right season arrives." Just at that moment, the church bells began to ring outside, their deep tones resonating through the quiet space. The snow began falling heavier, quieter, almost sacred. And in that moment, Daniel felt something stir deep inside him, something small, fragile, but undeniably alive. Mr. Elias spoke gently, not like a preacher delivering a sermon, but like someone who had walked through his own deep darkness and found his way out. Faith isn't the absence of pain, he said, his eyes filled with a deep well of empathy. It's the courage to believe that meaning can exist even within the pain. He then told Daniel how he, too, had once lost his entire family in a terrible winter fire, how the bitterness and anger had nearly destroyed him. What saved me, he confided, was realizing that faith isn't about understanding God's silence. It's about learning to trust His presence, even when you can't feel it. Daniel's eyes burned with the tears he had refused to shed for over a year. And for the first time, he prayed not for answers, not for miracles to undo the past, but simply for the strength to keep walking forward. Outside, the snow continued to fall, a thick, clean blanket covering the town's scars, softening the hard edges, and making the broken world look whole again. That night, Daniel returned home a changed man, not healed, not whole, but hopeful. He walked over to the corner and plugged in the Christmas lights. The tree flickered to life, casting a warm glow across the room. He carefully finished decorating the tree, taking his time with each ornament. And at the very top, he placed Lily's favorite ornament, a small wooden angel with slightly chipped wings. On Christmas morning, Daniel woke early. He looked out the window to see Everwood blanketed in a layer of pure, untouched white snow, looking peaceful and serene. He stepped outside and joined the rest of the town for the Christmas service in the square. Voices rose together in song, imperfect but sincere and full of heart. And Daniel sang with them. His faith did not return all at once in a flash of light. It arrived quietly, softly like the snowfall covering his grief, not erasing it, but giving it a sacred space to rest. He understood now. Loss had not ended his story. The love he shared with his family had not disappeared. His faith had simply been waiting for him, patiently beneath the snow. That Christmas didn't change Daniel's past, but it completely transformed his future. If you're listening to this with a heavy heart, remember his story. Remember that faith is not always loud. It doesn't force itself upon you. It waits patiently, even in the coldest, darkest seasons of your life. Like the snow, it can fall so softly you barely notice at first, but it has the power to change everything. Thanks for watching. If this story touched you, please consider sharing it.